In this video, you will learn how to solve absolute value equations. Now, the steps to solve an absolute value equation are as follows. First, you want to isolate the absolute value part, and you're going to wrap up the present and solve to get it by itself, and I'll clarify what that means on the next couple slides. Then you're going to write two equations. The first equation, you're going to set the quantity inside the absolute value sign equal to the other side. And the second one, you're going to set the quantity inside the absolute value sign equal to the opposite of the other side. And then the last piece is to check for your extraneous solutions, or solutions that don't work. In this first example, we have 3 plus the absolute value of k minus 4 equals 14. And the big difference we have here versus all the examples we did in the last video is our absolute value isn't isolated. In order to do so, we're going to wrap up the absolute value into a present. The purpose of this is to help you with that process of isolating. So I can rewrite this as 3 plus the present equals 14. Now if I want to solve to get the present by itself, I would subtract 3 from both sides, and I would get that the present is equal to 11. Now I can rewrite this by taking the present and rewriting it as our absolute value equation. So I can say the absolute value of k minus 4 equals 11. Now this allows us to write our two equations. So our first equation would be k minus 4 equals 11. And our other equation is the piece inside. So k minus 4 equals negative 11. I would solve both my equations. So on the left, I would add 4 and solve to get k equals 15. And on the right, I would add 4 and solve to get that k equals negative 7. Now I would check that both of these answers worked in the equation. So I would substitute them back in the original absolute value equation. So for the left, I would have 3 plus the absolute value of 15 minus 4 equals 14. This becomes 3 plus the absolute value of 11 equals 14, which becomes 3 plus 11 equals 14. And finally, you get 14 is equal to 14. So the answer is true. Do the same thing for the other side. So we get 3 plus the absolute value of negative 7 minus 4 equals 14. Simplify, so we have 3 plus the absolute value of negative 11 equals 14. Becomes 3 plus positive 11 equals 14. Then we end up with 14 equals 14. So this means that the solution is that k equals 15 and negative 7. For our next example, we first have to isolate the absolute value. So I'm going to wrap up my absolute value bars into a present and rewrite it so it's 4 minus 2 times the present equals negative 5. Now I'm going to solve to get the present by itself. So I would subtract 4 from both sides to get negative 2 times the present equals negative 9, and divide both sides by negative 2 to get that the present equals 4.5. Now that the present is by itself, I'm going to rewrite my equation with the absolute value part. So I would say the absolute value of x plus 9 equals 4.5. Now is when I would, since the absolute value is by itself, I can write my two equations. So my first equation is whatever is inside the absolute value So x plus 9 equals the original piece outside, or 4.5. And the other equation is the inside of the absolute value. So x plus 9 equals the opposite of the other side, or negative 4.5. Now I'm going to go through the process to solve each of these. So for the left side, I would subtract 9 from both sides and end up that x equals negative 4.5. On the right side, I would subtract 9 from both sides and end up with x equals negative 13.5. Now the last step is to check for extraneous solutions. So I'm going to plug my two solutions back into the original equation. So for the right side, I have 4 minus 2 times the absolute value of negative 4.5 plus 9 equals negative 5. And for the right side, I would have 4 minus 2 times the absolute value of negative 13.5 plus 9 equals negative 5. Now if we solve the right side, I'm going to simplify the absolute value first. So it becomes 4 minus 2 times the absolute value of 4.5 equals negative 5. 4 minus 2 times 4.5 equals negative 5. Becomes 4 minus 9 using my order of operations, and simplifies to give us negative 5 equals negative 5, which is a true solution. To check the right side, I'm going to do the same thing. So I simplify inside the absolute value first. So it becomes 4 minus 2 times absolute value of negative 4.5 equals negative 5. 4 minus 2 times 4.5 equals negative 5. 4 minus 9 equals negative 5. And finish solving to get negative 5 equals negative 5. So your solutions are x equals negative 4.5 or negative 13.5.